Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Z Talks with your host, Zaria Musgrove, where I talk about everything that relates to history and classic literature. Now, today I will be talking about one of my favorite books by an unsuspecting author, which is Butterfield 8 by John O'Hara. Now, I talked about this a while back on my socials where I said that I was not planning to read this book. I genuinely went into a charity shop in Toronto and picked up a different book that was kind of surreal impressionism type of book in the writing style. And I was like, you know what? I want to challenge myself. But then I started walking down the street after I picked up the book, and I realized that I absolutely did not like the book and it wasn't for me. So I turned around. The charity shop was closed, but luckily the woman was still closing up and she saw me through the door and she was like, "You were just here, you just bought the book, so you can just go inside and swap it for something else." And this is what I picked up on a whim randomly, and I just walked out of the store. And it turned out to be one of the best books I have read, but not for the reasons that you might think. And that is what I want to talk to you guys about today, including a little bit of the history behind this book, which isn't the type of history you might think. It's actually pop culture type of history, which is a new one for me. So I hope that interests you guys as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, Butterfield 8, this is a really interesting book because it follows a woman named Gloria Wandras. And the book starts in a way that I really haven't seen a book start before. Maybe I need to read more books like this because the book started with this woman waking up in a guy's bed and kind of like slowly coming out of this fog of remembering the night before, but the guy isn't there. So she decides to steal the coat of his wife because this is a married man, and she just walks out of his apartment after stealing his wife's coat. And the book starts and carries on from there. Now, her stealing this coat sets off a chain of events, which, spoiler alert, leads to her untimely death. Now, I don't think this book is really, I don't think that aspect of the book that I just explained is a spoiler because you knowing that doesn't take away anything from the book at all, because the main reason that I like this book is for the writing style. The writing style of this book is absolutely amazing, and I haven't seen it been done in a book since or before, which is that this book is dialogue focused. And I've read a couple of other books by John O'Hara after I read this book, and that is just his general writing style. So I encourage you to read his other books as well. Um, the dialogue, this book leads with this dialogue, which is why I think I read this book in a couple of days, definitely within the week, because it's just list and list and list of dialogue. I know that people have said that Sally Rooney does this as well. So I think if she does this writing style, then I want to read her books in future. But this is that style. It's just back and forth chatting between Gloria and other characters, as well as other side characters as well. Because this book doesn't just focus on Gloria, it focuses on other people that are loosely related to her through her friendships, and it kind of dissects the relationships between either Gloria and these people, or these people and their own relationships in terms of either family relationships, friendships, or romantic relationships. So this book is all about relationships, and you can see through the dialogue in this book how people kind of leave things unsaid or said because of the way that the dialogue is written. He really uses punctuation in a way I've never seen before to really portray people's accents. You can almost hear them in your head, even if you haven't heard that accent in real life before, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So the writing style of this book alone is masterclass, I would think. And besides the writing style, the plot of this book is really interesting. So, like I said, this book follows Gloria and her relationships with other people and other people's relationship, but it also dissects her present in relation to her past because it explores the fact that she's been sexually abused and how she kind of weaves this life of her being a socialite and high flying and having these off the cuff relationships and also heavily drinking in a time period that is full of speakeasies because this book is based in the 1930s when there is the prohibition, just the banning of alcohol across America. So people are going to private bars, which are called speakeasies, and just having drinks and meetups. So a lot of this book takes place in and around speakeasies and just the drinking and the hidden drinking culture at the time in the States, which I find very interesting because you have this kind of cool, smooth feel to the book where people are kind of like just living this hidden secret life, not just in relation to drinking, but also in relation to affairs, which is paralleled through the speakeasies, which I find very very interesting and cool the way it is written. So that is also a plus. But the most interesting thing that I found about this book is the pop culture history that I looked up about this book after I read it. So I read this book having found that she passed away, and then I went back to the front of the book and read the introduction because I'm a strong believer in not reading the introduction of a book until the end because they always spoil it. And I hate spoilers. I will stop reading a book if I know a major spoiler. So I read the introduction after I finished the end of this book, and I found out that the author himself said that he based this book off of the life of the socialite of the time called Starr Faithfull, who also died an untimely death in a quite similar fashion to the main character in 1931. And in that time period, it's called the golden age of Hollywood, which I found interesting because, as you guys know, in the 1930s, there was also the Great Depression. If you've watched my other episodes, I've done a lot of books that took place during the Great Depression, not on purpose, but they just happened to be. So I found that really interesting that she died at that time of the Great Depression because after her death, she became kind of Star Faithful, the actual real life person, became kind of a tabloid sensation because people were digging up her past and finding out, just like the main character in this book, that she was sexually abused by a family friend who was much older than her and had wild love escapades with a lot of um, people, a lot of flings, and heavy drinking as well. So she lived kind of this fast, loose, off the cuff life that was kind of glamorized or just totally torn down by other people in the press. And she was kind of like, you would say, a modern day celebrity because at the time, in this time period, because you had the Great Depression, I read this article by the Manchester Guardian that kind of explains that at this time period, people were kind of using socialites and celebrities as a way to escape from the world around them because the economic hardships were so harsh. So, kind of like today, using someone else's life to kind of escape from the realities of your own life was a popular phenomenon, but even more so at the time because the economic hardships were really economic hardshiping. So, yeah, I really found that just really interesting. Um, and the last thing, which was kind of sad because of all that she went through, her life was really tumultuous. So you could tell that a lot of the actions that she took would have been a cry for help, but the press was not forgiving and she was not displayed very well, which kind of parallels the main character in this book because of all the actions that she was taking because she was a woman. People tore her down around her in their perception of her. People didn't really take her seriously in this book, which kind of contributed to the way that she passed away. Because I feel like if more people took her seriously and understood and heard her cries for help, then we wouldn't have gotten where we got in this book, I think. Because a lot of people are like, oh, that's just the Gloria way. And it's like, no, the girl's crying out. Listen. So, yeah, this book is really too true to life, some might say, in terms of the actual character and also in terms of the phenomenons that happens in this book, which is people ignoring women and tearing them down because of their personal affairs, which I did not agree with and which made me really sad for the main character and which made me really empathize with her because, yeah, as I said, it's a depressing ending that I still think about to this day. Even though I've read this book about 3 years ago, it still sits on my mind. So, yeah, this is a short episode because this is a short book, as you can see. And that's all I have to say about the book. I do highly recommend this book. Not to everyone though, because of the strong themes of sexual abuse and um, just all of those themes of like affairs and heavy drinking and depression and suicidal thoughts. I wouldn't recommend this book to everyone because of the themes. So I would say pick this book up if you're mostly ready to read it because it might seem like, oh, it's glitz and glam and really light in the beginning. There's a turning point towards the middle of this book where it gets really real and you actually had to sit with the character and her emotions, and that can be quite jarring if you're not ready for the themes in this book. So pick it up if you're prepared, but I still highly recommend it. So yeah, that's all I have to say today about Butterfield 8. Have a read, and yeah, if you don't have a read, maybe pick up a recommendation from one of the other books that I've recommended in one of my other episodes on the podcast because I do a lot of episodes. So go back, watch one, get a recommendation, and read something. Or just wait for another couple of weeks for another recommendation from me on C Talks.